It was on a Tuesday afternoon, while I was in the office break room, that it all started. Brian and Andrew were talking about their latest purchases, new cars, exotic trips. I was there, drinking my coffee, when Brian blurted out something that caught my attention. "I don't even know how to spend all this bonus we received this quarter," he said, laughing. Andrew agreed, "Yeah, we work hard, but it's worth it. That extra $20,000 came at a good time." My heart stopped for a second. I had also received a bonus, but it was far from $20,000. At that moment, an uneasiness began to grow within me. I knew I was doing the same work, with the same quality and dedication, if not more. So why the difference? Back at my desk, I tried to focus on work, but the question of salary was on my mind. I decided to investigate. I spent the next few weeks analyzing salary and benefits reports, comparing my responsibilities and performance to Brian and Andrew's. With each new piece of information I discovered, the more outraged I became. One night, while I was reviewing the reports at home, my mother called me. "Jessica, you look tired. Is everything okay at work?" I sighed. "No, Mom. I found out that my male colleagues earn a lot more than me, even though they do the same job. It's frustrating." "That's absurd, honey. You need to do something about it." I knew she was right. But what could I do? The next day, at the office, I passed Megan in the hallway. She noticed my worried expression and asked what was happening. On impulse, I decided to vent. "Megan, do you have a minute? I need to talk to you about something serious." She nodded and we headed to an empty meeting room. I explained the situation, my findings and my frustration. Megan was shocked. "Jessica, I didn't know that. But now that you mention it, I also feel like I'm being undervalued." We decided something needed to be done. I started collecting more evidence, emails, performance reviews, anything that could strengthen our case. Each discovery increased my determination. One afternoon, as I was reviewing more documents, Brian walked by my desk and casually asked, "How are you, Jessica? You seem worried." I smiled, but inside I was boiling. "I'm fine, Brian. Just focused on work." He shrugged and left, having no idea of the whirlwind that was about to form. As the days passed, my indignation turned into a firm resolve. I knew this fight wasn't just mine. It was for all the women at the bank. Years of undervaluation and pay disparity needed to be exposed. It was time to act, and I was ready to face anything to ensure the justice we all deserved. Confiding in my situation with Megan was a turning point. I needed to vent, share the burden I was carrying, and at the same time seek support. That afternoon, during a coffee break, I called Megan for a more private conversation in the break room. "Megan, I need to talk to you about something serious," I began, trying to keep my voice steady despite my inner turmoil. She looked at me with a worried and curious expression. "Of course, Jessica." "What happened?" she asked, showing genuine interest. I took a deep breath and continued. "I discovered that Brian and Andrew make significantly more than I do for the same work. I reviewed salary and benefits reports and, it's sickening, Megan. They have equal responsibilities to us, and in some cases even less, but they are being very better paid." Megan frowned, absorbing the information. "Are you serious? This is completely unfair. I always suspected something was wrong, but I never thought the difference was that big." "I know," I replied, feeling a mixture of relief at finally sharing what I discovered and anger at the injustice. "And the worst thing is, if this is happening to me, it could be happening to other women here too." She nodded, visibly indignant. "We need to do something about this. We can't just accept this. We're going to investigate further, collect evidence and testimonies. We have to expose this injustice somehow." From that moment on, Megan and I formed an alliance. We started meeting after hours, reviewing emails, performance reviews, salary and benefits reports. We discovered we weren't the only ones. Other women at the bank also faced the same pay gap. We decided that we needed more concrete evidence and, above all, testimony that would strengthen our case. One night, as we were reviewing more documents, Megan let out a frustrated sigh. "This is so exhausting, Jessica. But we can't give up. We need more people on our side." I agreed, feeling the weight of responsibility growing. "I know. We need to be strategic. Maybe we should look for someone with more experience in the industry, someone who can guide us." It was then that we thought of Marcus, a veteran of the financial sector who has always shown respect and admiration for our work. We decided it was time to involve him in our fight. The next day, we approached Marcus during a coffee break. "Marcus, we need your help. We're investigating a gender pay gap here at the bank and we'd like to share what we found. Can we count on you?" Marcus looked at us with seriousness and concern. "Of course, Jessica. Megan. Tell me everything." As we explained the situation, Marcus shook his head, clearly indignant. "This is unacceptable. The work you do is exceptional and deserves to be recognized fairly. I will help you build a solid case. We must be meticulous and impactful in our approach." Marcus's presence was a relief and an encouragement. He provided us with valuable information and guidance on how to present our case effectively. With your help, we continue to gather evidence and testimony, always with a clear goal in mind: exposing injustice and fighting for equality. The tension in the office increased as we progressed in our investigation. Other employees began reaching out to us, sharing their own experiences and offering support. The solidarity that emerged between us was a powerful reminder that our struggle was not just personal, but collective. Every day that passed, I felt more determined. The injustice that initially caused me outrage was now the spark that fueled my desire to change things. With Megan by my side, Marcus guiding us, and the growing support of our colleagues, we were ready to face the bank and demand what was fair. The silent revolution we started was about to gain a powerful voice. During a coffee break, Megan and I were discussing our next moves in a quiet corner of the bank's cafeteria. The frustration was palpable in our voices, but there was also a spark of determination that couldn't be ignored. It was at this point that Marcus, an industry veteran with over 25 years of experience, approached us. He was a respected figure at the bank, known for his integrity and wide network of contacts. "Good morning, ladies," Marcus said with a gentle smile, holding up his coffee cup. "Can I join you?" "Of course, Marcus," I replied, trying to hide my apprehension. "We were just discussing some work matters." He sat down, and I realized he had something on his mind. "I couldn't help but overhear some of your conversation. It seems like there's something important going on." I looked at Megan, who nodded discreetly. I decided to be honest with Marcus. After all, he was always a mentor and someone I trusted. "Marcus, we discovered that Megan and I are earning significantly less than our male colleagues, Brian and Andrew, despite doing the same work, if not more. We are collecting evidence and plan to confront management about this injustice." Marcus nodded slowly, taking in every word. "This is unacceptable, Jessica. The pay gap is a serious problem, and I'm sad to hear it's happening here. What do you need from me?" Marcus's offer of help was like a ray of hope in the midst of the storm. "We need to understand how to present our case in an impactful way," I said. "We want to make sure our argument is irrefutable and that the administration can't just ignore it." Marcus smiled, his eyes shining with determination. "You've come to the right person. We'll start with the data you already have and structure it in a way that's impossible to dispute. We'll build a strong, clear narrative." In the following days, Marcus became an essential pillar of our plans. He guided us on how to collect additional data and helped us formulate a compelling presentation. "You need to show not just the pay gap, but also how it affects team performance and morale," he suggested during one of our meetings. "And remember, use testimonials from other employees. This reinforces the seriousness of the problem." One morning, as we were once again reviewing our presentation, Marcus shared a personal story. "When I started in the industry, I saw many talented colleagues abandon their careers because of injustices like this. We cannot allow this to continue. You are doing something very important." His words filled us with courage. Megan, who until then had been visibly nervous, began to feel more confident. "Thank you, Marcus. Your experience and support means a lot to us." "It's a pleasure, Megan," he replied, smiling. "Now, let's make sure you are ready for any objections that may arise." With Marcus' help, our presentation turned into a powerful weapon. We had graphs, testimonials, and a detailed analysis of the pay gap. We also prepared responses to possible counterarguments that management could raise. On the eve of the crucial meeting, Marcus called us for one last conversation. "Remember, you are fighting not just for yourselves, but for every woman in this company. Justice is on your side. Be firm and clear in your convictions." Supported by Marcus, Megan and I felt more prepared than ever. We knew the battle would be difficult, but we were ready to face any challenge. Marcus's presence, with his experience and wisdom, had given us the confidence we needed to move forward with our plans. And, above all, we were determined to make history, to start a silent revolution in search of equality. As I prepared for the confrontation, personal pressures began to weigh heavily on me. My parents, always so concerned about my professional stability, did not hide their concern. "Jessica, are you sure this is a good idea?" my mother asked during a family dinner. "We don't want you to lose your job. You've worked so hard to get where you are." I understood their concern, but my determination was unwavering. "Mom, Dad, I can't keep accepting this injustice. If I don't do something now, when will I do it? And who will?" I replied, trying to convey the security that I myself sought to feel. Tom, my boyfriend, was also apprehensive. "Jess, I support you, but I'm afraid this will affect our relationship. You're already so stressed," he said one night while we were on the living room couch. "Tom, this is something I need to do. Not just for myself, but for all the women who work there. If I don't fight now, how will I be able to keep looking in the mirror?" I tried to explain to him the depth of my motivation, hoping he would understand. Despite the pressure, I found strength in the small victories of everyday life. With each conversation with Megan, I felt like we were getting closer to exposing the truth. And when Lily, a young intern, said to me with shining eyes, "Jessica, you are an inspiration to me. I have never seen anyone have so much courage," my heart was filled with hope. Lily was new to the bank, full of dreams and ambitions. Seeing how she saw me gave me even greater responsibility. "Thank you, Lily. And remember, we're all in this together." "I'm doing this for us," I said, hugging her. With each step, the support network I built around me grew stronger. Megan and I spent hours analyzing data and preparing our presentation. Marcus, with his vast experience, guided us on how to approach the situation in a strategic and impactful way. "Jessica, you have a unique chance to make history here. Use it to your advantage," he told me one afternoon when we were lining up the last details. His words echoed in my mind, giving me the confidence I needed to move forward. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but the solidarity of the other women at the bank gave me strength. Every statement we collected, every story of injustice we heard, reinforced the importance of our fight. And even though my parents and Tom were worried, I knew that deep down, they also wanted me to do the right thing. On the day of the confrontation, as I was preparing for the meeting, I received a text from Tom, "I'm proud of you. Go all out." Your words were the final push I needed. I walked into the conference room with Megan by my side and the knowledge that we were about to start a silent revolution. The fight for equality was bigger than any fear or personal pressure. It was a question of justice, dignity, and paving the way for future generations. And in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. The tension in the office was palpable. Megan and I knew the team meeting would be the perfect time to expose the pay injustice we were facing. We spent sleepless nights, focused on preparing a detailed presentation, full of data, graphs and testimonials. Every detail needed to be perfect, every argument irrefutable. "Megan, do you think this is enough?" I asked, reviewing for the umpteenth time the slide showing the pay gap between us and our male colleagues, Brian and Andrew. Yes, Jessica. That's more than enough. We have the data, we have the testimonials. They won't be able to ignore this, Megan replied confidently, but I could hear the nervousness in her voice. She knew how much was at stake. The preparation nights were intense. I'm so tired, but we can't stop now, Megan said one of those late nights, as we drank another cup of coffee. I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. As we reviewed the testimonies of other employees, the reality became even clearer and crueler. Look at this, Megan. Sarah earns 20% less than Jack, even though she has more responsibilities, I said, feeling indignation rising inside me. That's absurd, Megan replied, shaking her head. We need to highlight these cases too. It shows that it's not just us. I knew the tension was rising. Every time I saw Brian and Andrew in the office, my stomach dropped. They, not knowing what was coming, continued with their lives as if nothing was wrong. This only strengthened my resolve. One night, as we were once again reviewing our data, Megan looked at me and said, "Jess, are you sure we're ready for this?" Their reaction can be unpredictable. I took a deep breath before responding. Megan, we have to do this. It's not just for us. It's for all the women who work here, who have been through this and who will go through this. We can't stay silent. My family was also worried. My parents called me frequently, questioning if I really wanted to go through with it. Jessica, you could lose your job, my mother said, concern evident in her voice. Mom, I know the risks. But I can't accept this injustice anymore. If we don't do anything, nothing will change, I replied, trying to remain calm. Tom, my boyfriend, was nervous too. Jess, what if this affects our future? What if you lose your job? He asked one night while we were having dinner. Tom, I understand your concerns. But I can't ignore this anymore. I need to do something. Not just for myself, but for all the women who are in the same situation, I said, holding his hand. He shook his head, resigned, but I knew he supported me, even if he was worried. The days leading up to the meeting were a mix of anxiety and determination. Every time I saw Lily, the young intern who often looked at me with admiration, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. She needed strong examples, women who fought for their rights. The day before the meeting, Marcus came to us. Girls, I'm proud of you. You have courage, and that's rare. Remember, you have the support of many people here, he said, his voice deep and comforting. Thank you so much, Marcus. Your support means a lot to us, Megan replied, and I nodded in agreement. That night, before going to sleep, I looked in the mirror and saw a determined woman. Tomorrow, everything could change, I thought. And with that idea, I was finally able to close my eyes and rest, knowing that we were ready to face whatever came. On the day of the meeting, Megan and I walked into the conference room with our hearts racing. The tension in the air was palpable, but we were determined. Megan carried the laptop with our presentation, while I carried a folder full of documents and evidence we had collected over the past few weeks. We knew that this moment was crucial, not just for us, but for all the women at the bank. As soon as we entered, we felt the curious and suspicious looks of our colleagues. Brian and Andrew were sitting in the front row, and their faces showed a mixture of surprise and nervousness. The bank's executives, including the CEO, were positioned at the main table, appearing with a confidence that we soon expected to shake. The meeting started with the usual topics, but my mind was only focused on our moment. When it was our turn, the CEO announced, "Now Jessica and Megan have something to share with us." I took a deep breath and took the first step towards the center of the room. Megan connected her laptop to the projector and the presentation began to unfold on the screen. Good morning, everyone, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. Today, Megan and I want to discuss a crucial issue that affects not just the two of us, but many other employees at this bank. The first screen showed comparative salary graphs. As you can see, I continued, there is a significant pay gap between male and female employees, even when we perform the same duties and have equivalent qualifications. There was a murmur in the room, and I could see the discomfort on the executives' faces. "That can't be right," the CFO interrupted, trying to divert attention. "These data need to be verified." Megan, prepared for this reaction, responded promptly, "All data was collected from internal bank sources. Here are the emails and performance reviews that support our claims." She proceeded to show the documents we had gathered, while I continued the presentation. "Furthermore," I added, "we have statements from several female employees that confirm this disparity. They are afraid to speak publicly for fear of retaliation, but are willing to cooperate in an internal investigation." The executives looked at each other, visibly uncomfortable. Brian and Andrew were stunned, not knowing where to look. So I decided to be more direct. "Brian and Andrew, you earn significantly more than Megan and I, even when our responsibilities and performance are equivalent. This is unacceptable." Brian tried to defend himself. "Jessica, I didn't know that. It was never my intention." "That doesn't change reality," I interrupted. "The issue here is not just about the two of you, but about a system that allows this injustice." The CEO finally spoke out. "We need to investigate these allegations seriously. Jessica, Megan, we thank you for bringing this to our attention. We will take the necessary steps to correct any inequities we find." I could see that his words were more of an effort to control the situation than a true commitment to change. Megan and I knew our work was just beginning, but the first battle had been successfully fought. When the meeting ended, several colleagues approached us, offering support. "You guys were amazing," said Lily, the young intern who had always looked up to me. "Thank you for fighting for all of us." I smiled at her, feeling a surge of renewed determination. "There is still much to be done, Lily. But together, we can make a difference." As we walked out of the conference room, Megan turned to me and said, "This is just the beginning, Jessica. We're just getting started." I nodded, knowing she was right. The fight for equality was long and arduous, but I felt that we were more prepared than ever to face any challenge that came our way. And with the support of colleagues like Marcus and the courage of so many other women, we knew we could truly start a quiet revolution at the bank. The impact of our presentation was immediate and undeniable. I could feel the air heavy in the room, as if each breath was a conscious effort. Bank executives, led by the CEO, tried to downplay the situation, but Megan and I were more than prepared. "Jessica, I understand your concerns, but you need to understand that there are many factors that influence each employee's compensation," the CEO began, trying to maintain his composure. "With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, I have already taken all of these factors into consideration. The salary difference between myself, Brian and Andrew has no logical justification based on performance, experience or responsibilities," I replied firmly, as Megan nodded at my side, ready to compliment any point I didn't cover. "Okay, let's look into this calmly," the CFO said, trying to sound conciliatory. "We need more specific data to understand the situation as a whole." "We have the data here," Megan interjected, sliding some more graphs and reports across the table. "These documents clearly show that despite having similar or even better performance reviews, our base pay and bonuses are significantly lower than those of our male counterparts." The tension in the room was palpable. I could see Brian and Andrew shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, probably wondering how this all came to light. The room was silent for a few seconds, which seemed like an eternity. "Jessica, Megan, this is something we take very seriously. We're going to need some time to review all of this information," the CEO said, trying to maintain a semblance of control. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. We are willing to collaborate in any internal investigation you wish to conduct. However, we expect concrete actions and no more empty promises," I replied, my voice firm, but without losing my composure. "We need a commitment to transparency and a timeline for implementing changes," Megan added, looking directly at the CEO. The executives exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly not expecting us to be so well prepared. We knew the battle was far from over, but this was a crucial step. I left the room feeling a mixture of relief and apprehension. The feeling of having made history was intoxicating, but I knew the road would still be long and full of obstacles. "You were amazing, Jess," Megan said as we left the meeting room. "You too, Meg." "We've made the first step, but we still have a lot of work to do," I replied, hugging her. At that moment, I realized that our fight wasn't just for the two of us. It was for all the women on the bench, for all those who came after us. Every supportive look we received as we left the room, every encouraging smile, gave me more strength. I knew we were starting something bigger, something that could change the culture of the bank and, perhaps, the industry as a whole. On the way back to my office, I was approached by Lily, the young intern who always looked at me with admiration. "Jessica, you were amazing in there. Thank you for doing this for all of us," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. "Thank you, Lily. Remember, this fight belongs to all of us." "It's going to take each of us to keep pushing for change," I replied, feeling a surge of pride and responsibility. Megan and I knew we needed to keep the pressure on. We spent the next few weeks reviewing and refining our points, preparing for any attempt to discredit our work. We had planted the seed of change and now it was our responsibility to ensure it grew. The support of other employees and my family was crucial during this period. My parents, despite being worried, expressed their pride and unconditional support. Tom, my boyfriend, was an unshakable rock of emotional support. "No matter what happens, I'm here for you, Jess," he said one night as he hugged me. I knew the battle was far from over, but with each step, I felt we were closer to a historic victory. And this feeling, of being on the right side of history, gave me the strength to keep fighting. After the meeting, news of Jessica and Megan's performance spread like wildfire throughout the bank. It didn't take long for other employees to approach us, offering support and sharing their own experiences. It was as if a dam had been broken. Stories of pay inequality, discrimination and injustice began to emerge from all corners. I was sitting at my desk, still trying to process everything that had happened in the meeting, when Lily, the young intern, approached. "Jessica," she said, her voice shaking, "I just wanted to say you were amazing today. You have no idea how much this means to all of us." I looked at Lily, feeling a mixture of pride and responsibility. "Thank you, Lily," I replied, trying to hold back the emotion. "This is for all of us. We will no longer accept this injustice." Megan joined us, bringing 2 coffees. "Here," she said, handing one of the glasses to me. "You're going to need this. It looks like we're just getting started." Over the next few days, the bank's management began to feel the pressure. The conversations in the hallways were busier than ever, and the looks of curiosity and support were constant. Marcus came to our office with a satisfied smile. "You two did an amazing job," he said, sitting on the edge of the table. "But know that the fight is not over yet." "We know," I replied firmly. "What's next?" Marcus explained that an internal investigation had been launched. Bank executives could no longer ignore the situation, especially after the repercussion our presentation had among employees. "They're trying to minimize the damage," Marcus said, "but they can't hide the truth for long." Megan and I continue to work hard, gathering more evidence and testimony. Every day, more employees came to us, sharing their stories and offering support. It was as if an invisible network of solidarity was forming, strengthening our cause. One particularly busy afternoon, I received a call from my mother. "Jessica, sweetie," she began, "your dad and I are so proud of you. We know this isn't easy, but you're doing something very important." "Thanks, Mom," I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. "I just hope it makes a difference." "It will," she assured. "You are inspiring a lot of people. Stay strong." With the support of my family and colleagues, my determination only grew. Megan, Marcus, and I spent hours discussing strategies, reviewing documents, and planning our next steps. The pressure on the bank's management increased every day, and we knew we were making history. One morning, I was called into a meeting with the Human Resources Department. Upon entering the room, I saw that Megan was already there, along with some bank executives. "Jessica, please sit down," said the HR director, with a serious tone. We are here to discuss the next steps in the investigation," he continued. "We want to hear more about your experiences and suggestions for correcting this pay gap." Megan and I exchanged a determined look. "We're ready to collaborate," I said, feeling a surge of confidence. "But we want to make sure real changes are made." The meeting was long and exhausting, but we left with a feeling of renewed hope. Bank management was finally recognizing the problem and taking steps to correct it. A new phase in the fight for equal pay was beginning, and I knew we weren't alone. The continuous support from other employees and my family gave me the strength to move forward. Megan and I were an unbeatable team, and with Marcus by our side, we knew we could face any challenge. The quiet revolution we had started was gaining momentum, and I was more determined than ever to see this change happen. As the investigation progressed, I came across a discovery that left me deeply disturbed. Brian and Andrew were aware of the pay gap and benefited from it. Feeling betrayed and with an even greater sense of injustice, I decided it was time to confront them directly. I could not allow this situation to continue without an honest and necessary confrontation. I clearly remember the morning I decided to talk to them. I walked down the hallway with a mix of determination and nervousness. As I approached the meeting room where I knew I would find them, I took a deep breath and pushed the door firmly open. Brian was sitting at his desk, typing something on his laptop, while Andrew was reviewing some documents. They both looked up when they saw me enter, and I could see the surprise on their faces. "Jessica, good morning," Brian said, trying to sound casual, but there was a hint of concern in his voice. Andrew just nodded, seemingly uncomfortable. "We need to talk," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "And it's something that can't wait." Brian closed his laptop and leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Of course, what is it about?" "About salaries," I said directly, bluntly. "I discovered that you two earn significantly more than I do, despite us doing the same work with the same level of responsibility." Andrew looked away, while Brian maintained eye contact. "Jessica, this isn't something in our control. It's the bank's policies." "It's not just about the bank's policies," I replied. "It's about the fact that you knew this and benefited from this disparity. You never mentioned anything, you never tried to correct the situation. This is unfair and unfair." Brian sighed, and for a moment, I saw a guilty expression on his face. "Look, Jessica, I understand your frustration. But what could we have done? This is so much bigger than us." "You could have spoken," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "You could have joined Megan and me in the fight for equality. Your silence is a form of collusion." Andrew finally spoke up, his voice low and hesitant. "Jessica, I'm sorry. I really am. But the fear of losing our own jobs has stopped us from taking action." "Afraid?" I asked, feeling my anger increase. "What about the fear of all the other women who work here? Have you never thought about that? Their fear of never being valued fairly?" Brian shook his head. "You're right, Jessica. There's no excuse for what happened. We may have been wrong, but we're willing to help now." "Now?" I said, almost laughing at the irony. "Now that everything is coming to a head and you have no other choice. What I want from you is a real commitment to supporting this cause. It's not just my fight, it's all the women here." As I left the room, I felt a mix of emotions. I was hurt and disappointed, but also empowered. The conversation was tense and emotional, but it made me realize that my struggle went beyond a personal issue. I was seeking justice for all the women on the bench. Every step I took, every confrontation I faced, made me more determined to continue this fight. With the support of Megan, Marcus, and so many other colleagues, I knew we were making history. And, despite all the pain and frustration, I felt a flame of hope growing inside me. The fight for equal pay was just the beginning. We were beginning a silent revolution, a change that promised to shake the structures of the bank and, perhaps, the entire financial industry. At the climax of the story, the twist occurs in a way I could never have predicted. In the midst of our fight for equal pay, an unexpected discovery emerges. Marcus, the veteran who had supported us from the beginning, brought to light shocking information about one of the bank's executives, Mr. Thompson, who was directly involved in setting the unfair pay policies. It all started on a Friday afternoon, when Marcus entered my office with a serious face. "Jessica, I need to talk to you. I found something that could change everything," he said, closing the door behind him. "What are you talking about, Marcus?" I asked, feeling a mix of curiosity and apprehension. I was reviewing some old documents and found evidence that Mr. Thompson was involved in illicit financial practices. He was manipulating reports and diverting funds to offshore accounts. "This goes far beyond the pay disparity, Jessica. This is a crime." My heart raced. "Are you sure about this? We need to proceed with caution." "Yes, I have enough evidence. And with the help of my contacts in the press and legal sector, we can expose everything. But we need to be strategic." With this new information, Marcus, Megan and I met to plan the next step. We decided to act quickly, before Thompson could realize we were about to unmask him. The following Monday, Marcus used his influence to call a meeting with the bank's board of directors. Megan and I were present, our hands shaking with nervousness and excitement. Marcus began the presentation with a detailed narrative of Thompson's illicit practices, supported by documents and financial records. "This is a crime against the integrity of the bank and against every hardworking employee expecting fairness and transparency," Marcus declared, looking directly at the board members. The silence in the room was palpable. The CEO, Mr. Hamilton, looked at Thompson with an expression of disbelief and anger. "Mr. Thompson, what do you have to say about these accusations?" Hamilton asked, trying to maintain his composure. Thompson, visibly shaken, tried to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. "This is nonsense. These allegations are baseless," he exclaimed, but his voice was shaking. "We have all the necessary documents to prove otherwise," Marcus retorted. "And we have already contacted the competent authorities." The room erupted in murmurs. The board immediately decided to suspend Thompson from his duties while the official investigation took place. He was escorted out of the building, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice being served. In the following days, news of the scandal spread like wildfire. The press covered the story extensively, and the bank was placed under public scrutiny. Thompson was fired and prosecuted for his actions. With Thompson's departure, the bank underwent restructuring. The new board of directors was committed to implementing equal pay and transparency policies. Megan and I were called into a meeting with the new CEO, who briefed us on our promotions and fair salary adjustment. "Jessica, Megan," said new CEO Mr. Parker, "you were instrumental in bringing these issues to light. In recognition of your work and courage, we are promoting you both to leadership roles and adjusting your salaries to reflect your real contributions." I looked at Megan, who had happy tears in her eyes, and felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. "Thank you very much, Mr. Parker," I replied. "We are willing to continue working to make this bank an example of justice and equality." The transformation was profound and lasting. The bank adopted strict equal pay and transparency policies, becoming a model for the financial sector. Employees at all hierarchical levels began to feel the difference and believe that change was possible. My fight for equality has become a symbol of resistance and courage. And looking back, I realized that the real victory wasn't just my promotion or salary adjustment, but the systemic change we helped implement. The courage and determination that Megan and I demonstrated inspired changes that echoed throughout the financial industry, and that is something I will always carry with pride. The battle was hard, but justice prevailed. And, alongside allies like Marcus, Megan and so many other courageous women, we were able to make a difference.